안녕하세요, 여러분. So very nice to have this seminar with all of you. And I'm Chun-Yao from Eurofins Discovery, Taiwan. And I'm working quite a lot in the pharmacology, and especially in safety pharmacology. And I appreciate today's time with all of you to share about some our experience and our point of view in safety pharmacology and how it is important in drug discovery. So today I will start to introduce you some overview or general idea about what is safety pharmacology, how we look at it. And then we'll start from the in vitro general safety screening, how the general approach, how do we do this? And then specifically, we are going to introduce some like CNS safety or carcinogenicity risk assessment will be kind of more specific topics when we are evaluating the safety and the risk assessments. Then there will be a summary in the end. And I'm hoping this kind of presentation can help you to understand better about safety and understand how CRO companies they can provide such kind of service and how is the real practice and industrial application for the safety pharmacology evaluation. And if you have any question after the seminar, we can have a Q&A session, and please don't hesitate to raise your questions or anything you'd like to know from us. Thank you. So firstly, I will start from the safety pharmacology overview, especially on we call the cold battery system. Okay, before that, I will just take one example for your information. So in 2004, September 30th, there was a news from Merck. So they withdrew their popular compound called Vioxx from the market. They called this compound out from the markets, and the same day, the stock markets from Merck stock price just jumped to around 27%. And even after 2 years, they can just recover their stock price. So this kind of withdrawal really makes some impact to their company's operation. And really we see there's a kind of vibration in the market. So I just like to share you this information, how safety pharmacology can in the end finally influence the economy. And I will explain you the reason, what happened during that period in 2004. So actually this recall of this compound Vioxx, this is the third biggest product recall in human history. Finally, there is a kind of 8.9 billion lesson for the whole human being. So this is very critical historical issue and what was happening at that moment. So Vioxx is kind of a very specific COX-2 inhibitor. This compound was approved by FDA in 1999. And I remember when I was in my pharmacy school, we know like the traditional NSAID, they have no selectivity in COX-1 and COX-2, and they can produce a lot of side effects. So people were studied quite a lot, try to find a more specific COX-2 inhibitor to have a better anti-inflammatory effects, but have less side effects. So under that kind of background, the COX-2 inhibitor was really popular at that time. And when we had the first compound from COX-2 selective COX-2 inhibitor, I think people were pretty happy, especially when we are like students in pharmacy. But in 2004, they just withdrew this medicine and they caused a lot of economic loss. So after that, we make a lot of research. Humans say, okay, what people say, what is going on and why we need to withdraw this medicine. So in 2000, they did a lot of survey. In 2006, Lancet Research estimate there were around like 88,000 Americans that had heart attacks, and 38,000 died just from taking this compound. And in 2007, Merck announced they will pay 2.9 billion to end thousands of lawsuits, because a lot of people, they sue the company and say this is not good. Some people just die from your medicine. So they pay a lot of money, a huge amount of money to terminate this lawsuit. So we know that this kind of COX-2 COX inhibitor, they will have some heart attack or some stroke risk to, especially in cardiovascular risk to human being. So even until 2015, almost 10 years later in July, FDA still strengthened the warning that NSAID can cause severe heart attacks or strokes. So still such kind of compound, they have this kind of concern. And if it's already go to the market and cause a lot of safety concern or even withdraw and damage human health, then they will pay, the price is really huge. So after the example, let's come back to the principles of safety pharmacology. And what is that? So we know, like we have a medicine, and we have a kind of adverse effect, the effect we don't want to have. So according to their frequency and the impact, we can separate this kind of side effects into 4 different kind of areas. So from the area 1, we know some compounds, they can cause arrhythmia, or like a long QT, we call it QT prolong, and in the end, they will make some arrhythmia in heart. So now we know the mechanisms from hERG channel. So if you inhibit this potassium channel, then you will prolong your QT wave, and in the end, cause arrhythmia. And this is very common. The frequency is very high, and the impact to human body is very critical. So if you have arrhythmia, you increase your risk for sudden death. So we know this is critical. This is very frequent. So even in FDA guidance, we know we need to check the hERG binding and hERG electrophysiology to confirm there's no effect on hERG, or the effect is minor, you can ignore. But besides the hERG channel blocking effect, still we have some other side effects. They have a lower frequency, but still the impact is high. Still will cause a lot of impact to human health. So still that kind of thing should also be monitored. Such like some compound that can induce retinal or ocular dysfunction. They have a neuropathy effects, or they have a potential for drug abuse, or potential to induce seizure, or even some medicine that can cause respiratory depression, meaning you stop your breath. And that will be also very lethal. So that's why if we have such kind of side effect or potential for these side effects, still we need to monitor such kind of potential risk. And on area 3 and area 4, we know this is something kind of for maybe their impact. Sometimes the frequency is higher, like GI dysfunction or heart rate change, blood pressure change, or even the instance is lower, like renal dysfunction. So we put them into the secondary, or we call supplementary category, even though they are not very critical, or even though they are not lethal, or cause huge impact immediately. But still, when we are working on the small molecule compounds, still we want to, or we are competing with the other medicines, still we want our compound has less side effects. Especially you are competing in the me-better market, still you want to reduce your side effects and make the compliance better, and then you can compete with the other competitors. So still some people, they are really working for reduce the diarrhea, reduce the dizziness, reduce the GI dysfunction or renal dysfunction for long term, then they can have a better performance on their drugs. So from the FDA guidance, we know ICH S7A, we have this from 2001, we have such kind of guidance. So there are clear definition of safety pharmacology, and we want to investigate the potential undesirable pharmacodynamics effects for our compounds. And from the core battery system, we call tier 1 core battery. So we have a central nerve system, we have a respiratory system, we have a cardiovascular system. They are very critical and important organs or important system to maintain our life and our regular function. So they are very critical. And also we have a tier 2 supplementary system, such like a kidney, stomach, intestine, and the others. Even though they are not like a very lethal if you have a side effect immediately, but for long term, they will still have some kind of uncomfortable effects or affect your health. So still we need to pay attention on the other systems. So how we are working from the in vitro assay, how we are working for the safety pharmacology. So what kind of value we can add from the in vitro assay to safety? So as long as we know, like in 2022, we have a FDA Modernization Act 2.0. So we know in currently our human knowledge, we use a lot of animal testing, like a safety safety pharmacology, like a toxicology or efficacy PK. A lot of kind of studies we are using animals. But for the modernization 2.0, people are asking for use the other kind of alternatives to the animal study. It doesn't mean we have to ban animal study, because animal study is really like straightforward, like in our like ancient time. If we give our dogs or pets some some food, and if they eat this, they die. Of course, human we cannot eat it. So I think animal testing is still very important, but due to the limitation, like species difference and the limitation of animal models, we cannot always rely on animal tests. So people are thinking about how can we do some alternatives from by in vitro assays, such like cell-based assay, or even we have AI, we have an in silico testing. So how we can do this to make some alternatives and add more value on the base of animal study. And also this is kind of world trend to reduce animal study, to combine the 3R, to reduction, to reduce and refine the animal using. So that will be very important thing we are thinking. So in the end of 2022, US President Joe Biden, he just signed this Modernization Act 2.0, and people are happy to see, okay, we have more alternatives. We are looking for some in vitro alternative ways using more modern technologies to make more value to the human health, except the animal models. And end of last year, in 2023 November, so the senators Rand Paul still saying, okay, we have already signed the act, so what is following up? So, sometimes government, they need some time to think about this, to consult a lot of expertise to see, okay, how can we do? But people cannot wait. So some senators say, okay, please, FDA and the government, please give us a solution. We need an answer as soon as possible. So they just asking the government, please follow up, please update the animal testing alternatives. So what is progress right now? So people that are really pushing, we need to find some alternatives from the animal models. So here you can see the sentence, we are not thinking to ban the animal testing, but we need to allow drug sponsor to use alternative modern methodologies to demonstrate drug safety and effectiveness. And that will be very important. So we know for the whole drug discovery journey, there's from drug discovery and to drug development, from your idea and you find the targets, and then you try to create this chemical and you need to modify structure, and then you go to in vitro assay, cell-based assay, animal assays, and then you go to human clinical trial. That's a very long journey, and usually it takes 10 to 15 years. And thanks to the current technology, maybe you can shorten less than 10 years. But still, that will be a very long journey and take a lot of money. So in average, it's kind of a 1 to 2 billion. And if you have a attrition, you have your compound to the market, but you recall it back, and then you may spend more. So from the early discovery phase, we know once we have some idea, and then we have we validate our targets, and then we need to create this chemical, these modalities, and try to find some hit compounds. So we need to do some high throughput screening to find out our hits. And then once we have some potential hits, we need to do some evaluation if they are clean, specific enough, or if they have a lot of off targets. And then also we need to check their PK properties by in vitro or in vivo PK, and we modify the structure. We call this SAR, and then we try to optimize the structure, the selectivity, the off target, the PK properties. And then during this period also we need to do some off target evaluation until we have a few compound, maybe 1 or 2 very potential compound for we select this candidate and for issuing IND. So in the early drug discovery stage, there are a lot of things to do. And all the stages we need to identify, we need to eliminate, and we need to understand our potential hazards and how we solve this. So in 2012, we have four huge pharmas, including AZ, GSK, Novartis, and Pfizer. They published one paper in Nature Review Drug Discovery, saying, okay, we need to have according to our experience, according to our a very sad experience, we got some recall, we got some withdrawal, we got some internally study, we find this is not safe. According to our experience, we propose at least this 44 molecular target will be very important. So including kind of like adenosine, like beta receptors, like opioid receptors, they are very important in CNS or cardiovascular functions. So they suggest when we are evaluating the safety pharmacology, the compound safety, at least we need to check these 44 molecular targets. So this idea created from 2012, and people, they agree these 44 targets from industry experience and also from pharmacology. We all agree such receptors or ion channels they are very important. But with time goes, with more and more, we need to more understand. With the progress just goes further and further, we have to think about maybe not only the 44 targets, but the people are asking more. So like, okay, maybe we need to do 100, we need to do 150. As when we are going further to the candidate, maybe we need more information about the off-target. So according to different stage, like in hit finding, in lead optimization, and in just before IND, maybe we need different kind of scope for the off-target. So many companies, including Eurofins Discovery, we provide different kind of scope, like from tier 1 in hit identification, tier 2 in the lead optimization, and tier 3 in candidate selection. We have a different scope of safety panel, including different numbers of targets for pharmas for their selection. So in different stages, they have maybe they think differently. So they can do some off-target in any phase during their research. So there are some examples. This paper already published, so it's a kind of very quick example for us to demonstrate how pharma or research institute, they do the safety pharmacology. So this paper published last year, end of last year, from CHDI. This is a Cure Huntington Disease Initiative. They are kind of very huge foundation in US focusing on the Huntington disease. So during their discovery stage, they keep sending compound to us. So you can see they have a compound 2 until compound 27. So in their compound 2, they have 25 hits, and gradually they change their structure, they do some optimization, and until compound 27, they have only 12 hits, and they reduce the off-targets for their compounds. And when we check the literature, they're using more than 240 different kind of molecular target provided by Eurofins Discovery. Most of them are CNS-focused targets and testing concentration from 10 micromolar. So this is very, very persuasive example, like how the research institute or how pharma they are using the off-target surveys from CROs to demonstrate or to modify their compound, making their compound safer. And there's another example from our internal case study. So we use this marketed compound, loperamide. This is very common for diarrhea. And FDA already claimed they have a lot of serious heart problems associated to the abuse of loperamide. So we did our internal case study, and we do find this compound show a lot of targets, and those hit targets are mostly focused on the CNS-related receptors or proteins, such like alpha receptors, calcium channel, beta receptors, and sodium and hERG channels. They are all related to different level in cardiovascular safety. So this is also another example we can show such kind of target. They are the data, the result is consistent with what people find in clinical. So next one, we are going, after the general safety screen, we talk about like a general 44 molecular targets and some case study how they use the safety screening panel for the safety evaluation. And next, we are going to talk more about some specific topics, including CNS and carcinogenicity. So CNS safety is usually kind of very tough, very difficult questions to pharmacologists and scientists, because we know from the animal study we can see kind of a behavior change. We can do a lot of behavior evaluation, but if you see this figure from the like a more frequent CNS side effect from FDA label database, so we can see the number one is suicidal ideation. So yeah, it's very sorry. An animal cannot tell you, okay, I feel sad, I feel very want to suicide today. So from the animal behavior, it's very difficult to observe. And also for the sedation, probably you can do the more locomotion activity or some behavior test to see if they have a kind of significant sedative effect. But such like minor effects or some kind of dizziness, sometimes it's not very easy to monitor. And the number three and number four are drug abuse and seizure conversion. Of course, we have some animal models we can do, but for example, like some minor abuse tendency, maybe it's not very easy to find. Or seizure, we know if you have a general conversion, the whole body seizure, tonic-clonic, you can see it. But if it is a partial seizure, like just 3 seconds or something from the behavior, it's very difficult, even though you have a EEG. So we know the limitation from the animal studies, and we have to think about, okay, what can we do alternatively from the in vitro test for drug abuse, for seizure liability, or even for the overall CNS safety concerns? What can we do? Okay, so we know the human brain is very complicated. All the proteins, receptors, molecules you can think about in human body, highly likely you can find in human brain. But we know there are different kind of brain regions, different kind of connections, networks, synapses, different kind of areas. So this is very difficult. So when we are thinking about CNS, of course, we need to refer the literature, refer to the human knowledge when we study neuroscience. And then after checking a lot of literature and to human knowledge, we know there are many, many important molecular targets, but we cannot check everything in the human brain. But here we just pick out 94 very important molecular targets, including some important GPCR, ionic channels, transmitter-related transporters, nuclear hormone receptors, and some critical enzymes. They contribute in CNS normal function and recognize playing important role in CNS function. So we use such kind of CNS target panel to find out off target, especially in CNS, central nervous system. And the general CNS concerns, one thing we can pick out a lot of CNS related targets. But for the others, like drug abuse assessments and the seizure liability assessments, actually there are some guidelines for us to follow. So we know for drug abuse potential, this is very critical issue or kind of a social problem. So we don't like our a young generation or our people that got addictive to drugs. So this kind of drug abuse potential is really regulated by the authorities. So following the FDA guidance, so how we think about the drug abuse. So of course, from the chemical level, if our compound, the chemical structure is similar to the well-known compound we know, like the compound structure like amphetamine, like morphine, like opioid or cannabinoids, and then we know there's some kind of structurally similar. So maybe you will have some potential for drug abuse. Then the next one we can think about, okay, if the compound will showing some pharmacological effects in CNS, like this is antidepressant, this is for ADHD, this is for antipsychosis, or the compound will penetrate to BBB, then you have to think about the potential risk for drug abuse. So to evaluate this, you need to do some binding assays, or this is already written by the guideline. So you use high selective radioligand binding assay at 10 micromolar and try to make some competition with some important molecular targets, including dopamine receptor, serotonin receptor, opiate or cannabinoid receptors, and some important ion channels and transporters. And then you can evaluate, because those kind of targets are related to abuse neural pathway. So you can see if your compound have any of targets on those important molecular targets. And after that, you have some receptor hits, and you can do some functional assay to understand if they are agonist, antagonist, or partial inverse agonist. Then you can evaluate if there is any potential pharmacological effects in drug abuse or drug addiction. So similarly for seizure liability, this is also a very popular and common topic when we are talking about safety pharmacology. So clinically, we know 6 to 9% seizure cases actually they are due to the drug toxicity, not due to their like a genetics or like disease, just because they take some medicine and they got seizure. And as long as the compound they can go cross BBB, and then you have such kind of seizure liability potential. So like we know this compound, if compound that work in CNS is around like 34%, they can cause seizure. But the interesting thing we can see like anti-infections, like cardiovascular or respiratory compounds, even though they don't have any effects on CNS, but as long as they pass to BBB, they could have some seizure liability potential. So not only for CNS target compounds, but also for the other areas, they cross BBB, and then you have to think about the seizure liability. So right side, we can see the current approach for seizure liability risk assessment. So we have like pharmacological tool or like animal models, or we have like ex vivo electrophysiology. So for molecular targets, also we can think about what kind of in vitro targets we can do for the seizure liability. So thinking about the mechanism and the pathway of seizure, so we know some important ionic channels, some important like neuropeptide Y receptors, they could be contributed to the neural excitability, and in the end they can cause some seizure. So like our company, we provide seizure liability panel to pick out 15 very important molecular targets, including the like some potassium channel GABA receptors. They are related to seizure, and then we can use such kind of molecular target to evaluate if they have any potential for seizure liabilities. So yeah, just regarding the whole CNS related safety pharmacology, this is something during the early drug discovery, Eurofins Discovery or the other CLs they can do, or what we can do from the target ID to hit finding, hit to lead, optimization, and preclinical development. So we can use different kind of in vitro assay design, such like CNS target panel or Alzheimer panels to find out our potential on target. And during the optimization period, we can use some off-target panel like CNS panel, abuse or seizure panel to evaluate the potential safety concern, especially in CNS field. So that will really help us during the whole journey. We can know our mechanism, and also we can confirm our compound is safe. We don't want it to be withdrawn after marketed. So finally, I'll talk about the carcinogenicity risk assessment. This is a kind of recently it's also a very popular topic, and people are talking about. So we know as long as your medicine is kind of for chronic usage, like anti-hypertension, anti-seizure, or something you need to take for a very long time, more than 2 years, then you need to think about the chronic tox, especially for the carcinogenicity. We know some chemical, if you take this for a long time, maybe you have a more risk for cancer. So that's why during the drug discovery and development, people are thinking about, especially during the development stage, we have to do the 2-year animal study. Yeah, so as long as your compound, you need to take this medicine for longer than 6 months, then during the development stage, you need to do the animal rodent study for 2 years to ensure they don't have a risk for carcinogenicity. But this is very like long time and costly study. So people are thinking about, okay, can we do something else? And as long as we know the animal study is not like 100% consistent with human. So according to literature, it's only like from some publication, it's like less than 50% consistency. So since animal study is not as consistent as human, and this is 2-year study, is very time and money consumptive. So can we do something else? Can we use some in vitro alternative way to provide enough evidence to waive this 2 years animal study? So from the ICHS 1B R1 published in August 2022, so we are thinking about the weight of evidence approach, we call WOE. So when we are evaluating the carcinogenicity, we can think about what kind of evidence we can provide. So from of course, there are still a lot of things to do. So from point 1 to point 9, still there are 7 points we need to do the animal study for the first 3 and 6 months to confirm there's no general tox, there's no genetic tox, or no immune or hormone effects. But at the first 2 steps, like drug target pathway pharmacology and the secondary pharmacology, this is something we can do from the in vitro assay. So we can provide the pharmacological study by translational biology, some phenotypic assay, and also we can do some target-based assay to find out the pathway, the MOA pathway, and also the off-targets. Then we can provide some evidence. So if finally the evidence is enough to prove this is likely or unlikely, you confirm there's a risk or there's no risk, then you can waive your 2 years animal study. But if you cannot provide enough evidence, people still will have doubts, and then you should do this 2-year animal study. So according to the published data, we do some survey. Currently, it's around like 40% successful rate you can waive this 2-year animal study. Although 40% is not high enough, but you have another chance to save 2 years for the animal study. So comparing to the cost we spend on the in vitro study, so this is still kind of very cost-effective strategy to look forward. And considering about the molecular biology and the nature of a carcino, the tumor genesis pathway, so we are thinking about there are some important pathway to induce humogenesis, like apoptosis pathway, cell proliferation, inflammation, free radical scavenger, some hormone-related effects, and metabolic activation. So according to the literature, we pick out 30 very important targets for evaluating the carcinogenicity. So we are hoping such kind of a pathway and biology study, the literature survey, we can provide some important molecular targets, make more evidence when we are evaluating the carcinogenicity. So you can see there are some very famous molecular targets like caspase pathway, like androgen and estrogen receptors, like interleukin system, and some cytochrome P. And to confirm if we are doing the right thing, if our target selection is proper, we did some internal case study. So we are using some well-known carcinogens for some compound we are known already, they are very risky and dangerous. So we put this compound into our panel and see if we can see many of targets, and the data is very consistent. So the well-known compound, they can really find some like off-target hits for different kind of carcinogenicity-related molecular targets. So we were very satisfied to seeing this data. And meanwhile, we are using the mutagens. We know such kind of reagents like cyclophosphamide, mitomycin, they are working on the DNA level to affect the DNA repairment or DNA cross-linking. Then we find there's nothing because they are not working on the protein level, so we don't see any kind of off-target. And also we are using some non-carcinogen, but also they are kind of, people are thinking maybe they are risky or maybe they are not. Like some sweeteners like aspartame, from some news, people are wondering if they are really dangerous to human health. But according to our internal study, we don't find kind of very significant off target, especially on the very high concentration. So the data just show like we can use such kind of evaluation panel to provide some very early stage evidence from the in vitro assay and see there's any off-target risk for the carcinogenicity. And we already discussed this internal data with some other clients in different countries, and many of clients already they feel this kind of data is very convincing, and people are still talking about what kind of molecular targets, how many evidence we need for with this 2-year carcinogenicity animal studies. So I will do a very quick conclusion for today's seminar. So when we are talking about in vitro safety pharmacology, so we are always thinking to do this as early as possible and try to find as wide as possible for the off targets. So 16 years ago, this paper published in 2008, people were thinking doing the safety pharmacology from developmental stage to discovery stage. So 15 years later until now, most of our people, they are doing the safety pharmacology in discovery phase and consistent with the principle as early as possible and do more molecular targets. Most of our clients, they are doing more than 100 different molecular targets for their finally safety assessments. So as wide as possible. And in vitro first to combine the 3R to repress, reduce, and refine the animal studies. And then we can do some functional assay to follow up some translational model or some downstream GPCR signaling. We can see the mode of action to know their mechanism. And finally, this is our scientists' responsibility to collect enough data, enough evidence, and make our interpretation, and to see if they are really critical, really risky for our safety, or if we don't need to mine such kind of off-target. Considering about a safety margin, the different IC50 value, consider about the PK properties, we need to do our final conclusion. And also, of course, a lot of scientists and the whole community will help try to make the in vitro data more comprehensive and more alternative to animal study and contribute more to the human health. And in the end, there's just some regular safety screening panel for CRO companies, especially from Eurofins Discovery, different tiers like tier 1, 2, 3 in different stage, or some kind of advanced panels like a enzymatic panel or some Hurger electrophysiology and binding assays, and also for CNS targets like drug abuse, seizure liability, and carcinogenicity, we have a target-based panel, we have the MS or some micronucleus test. So that's where all help for your safety pharmacology evaluation. So thank you so much, and I'm very great to have this seminar with you. And please don't hesitate to raise any question or contact us. Thank you.